most successful people in the world are just good at one thing. You know, you see like really ultra talented people who might be like multifaceted, but they're like the exception.
He definitely put the fire in me to want to be an entrepreneur young. So
do you give up that competitive advantage because you want to go and now be a real estate investor? And I always tell people, go all in on one skill. What do window tinters, what can they make like learning this skill?
After you pick it up, you can make anywhere from, in my eyes, 75 to 250,000 a year.
What's up, Well Builders? Today, I've got two brothers who have built a multi-million-dollar window tinting business, and we're going to learn everything about that business and how it has scaled going forward and why it could be a good opportunity as a potential side hustle for certain people. I have got the Miller brothers. What's up, man?
How's it going? How's it going?
Yeah. So, man, I've been working with you guys now for almost a year, and I've learned a lot about the window tinting business behind the scenes. There's a lot of complexity with it, but I think one of the interesting things about this business is, you know, just like how many different parts of it. I mean, you guys do residential window tinting, you guys do auto tinting, and it's just interesting to see like the different profit margins and pricing and different things. Like, talk about real quick how you guys got started, just so that everyone knows.
Well, we had, in my eyes, we got really lucky. Our dad started the company. We're second generation installers or tinters. My dad started the company in '83, pretty much out of necessity. Just, he was on the way and saw an opportunity, was building some cabinets for one of his buddies, saw them messing with the car, how much they were going to get paid for that car, bought a roll, and then just kind of hit the ground running. And then obviously we were born into it, and then something that we, for me at least, I got lucky in the fact that I enjoyed doing it when it came down to it. But we've just, you know, it's been a family business, you know, just kind of grown up in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it growing up? Just like, were you guys tinting cars like as kids or what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As I remember, actually, my dad let me play with the OFO knives, like when we were still in California, and we moved here in '92. So I had to be younger than 7. I was able to like use the OFO knife and like cut my name in film on the peel board on the wall. But by the time I was 12, I could tint a car. And throughout high school, tinted all my buddies' cars. And 16, got my license going out on residential jobs. Like, so it was a small little thing, just him in a van, mom helping, and then slowly added installers over the years. But it's kind of summers, weekends, after school. It's kind of, we kind of had to be there helping, and luckily he made it fun, and he made us work for anything we wanted, right? So we were getting paid. So if I wanted something,
you got to earn it.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that was our babysitter. You're at the shop, and then, you know, I wanted to, as I started getting older, I wanted things, and then my dad was like, well, you want it? Here,
go work for it.
Go pick up the trash. And I started getting paid for it, and, you know, thankfully I was able to instill in us how if you want something, you got to earn it. Yeah. You know, start working, and kind of went from there.
You know what's interesting is like so many entrepreneurs I see come on as you know, they're first generation, like myself. Like my dad had a business growing up, and similar to you guys, like he had a convenience store, and so I would go to the convenience store as a kid and go eat freaking candy and go in the freezer and like mess around and stock the drinks and other stuff. And so it was like a cool experience. But you know, by the time I was an adult, I wanted to play baseball and just do all that. So I didn't like have a desire to take over the business. So my question is, coming in second generation now, I mean, this business is now over 40 years old. Did you guys want to take it over, or what was the desire?
Probably not to begin with. Probably didn't even really think about it to begin with. It started off as just, that's how I made money, just because I wanted to buy things. As I got through high school, I mean, I would say we're real competitive in nature. We grew up playing sports too, baseball, majority of the time. And then I would say towards the tail end of high school, I started realizing like I enjoyed doing it. And I started realizing I was really good at it. And then the competitions started popping up. I think the first competition was in like in 07. I didn't know they really existed until like 2012. When I saw those pop up, I went and started competing. And then that's when I started looking at like, not only do I kind of enjoy what I'm doing, I'm actually really good at what I do. And then at that point, just my competitive nature took over, and I wanted to be the best at what I did. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was pure luck that I just kind of fell into. I think my dad's game plan was always the kids take over the business, which early on, I don't think there was an actual pathway for that. My sister wanted nothing to do with the business. I've always stayed in the business. It just was one of those things, nothing really grabbed my attention, and I just kind of fell in love with it. My brother, he joined, him and my dad are water and oil to begin with.
I'm the oldest, and I didn't work well with my dad, especially when I was young.
Yeah.
So like right out of high school, I worked at the shop for a while, and then I actually quit. It was right like when the housing market was going crazy in 2005-ish. My ex-wife's family was doing mortgages, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to get into that. And it was like right before everything kind of started crashing. I went and tinted at Lexus Las Vegas because that didn't work out very well. It's whatever business they had started kind of fell apart, and a job opportunity opened up to tint at Lexus Las Vegas as the in-house tinter. And like 6 months into that, I just went and joined the Army one day, and like, I was like, I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Yeah.
And spent 6 years in the Army. Got out, actually worked for a film manufacturer in Texas for like 4 or 5 months as like an outside sales rep.
Yeah.
Hated that job. Was driving like 200 miles a day sometimes.
Yeah.
Was going through a divorce, got custody of my kids, opened up a division of this shop out there, so I didn't have to like go through all the hassle of actually like starting a business. We kind of just opened up a location of Green Valley Tint in Texas. I ran that for 2 years. I'd grown up quite a bit, and opportunity came back to come back out here in 2014. And so my journey to make it back to the company was kind of a little different. Ricky never left, and so, but
I think about that too now. Like my kids aren't even anywhere close to taking over, but like I just think like, man, you know, it'd be cool for them to want to do it and get into it, but if they don't want to, like it, you know, I guess it's all good either way. So I was just curious if your dad forced you or anything.
No,
like
the
that.
good thing though is like it's such an awesome skill. Even when I was in the Army, I was tinting buddies' cars in the Army, like
because you'd grown up doing it.
Yeah, as an installer, it's such a good skill to have that I always knew while I was in the military. I never like I re-enlisted and stayed in and was thinking about staying in long term, but I always knew that I could go and just even be an installer, not even necessarily an entrepreneur, any major city in the country and instantly be making pretty good money just as an installer.
Yeah.
He definitely put the fire in me to want to be an entrepreneur young. So
yeah,
the idea of running my own business, especially after having been in the military and then getting out and going into like more of a corporate job.
Yeah.
I immediately was like, so that's why I like ran my own location in Texas for almost 2 years. Opportunity came up where I got custody of my daughters.
Yeah.
And I could come back out here. And so we kind of like sold those phone numbers off and I just came back out here.
Yeah.
I think he did just enough to push for it, but not overly push me, because I knew that was his intentions the entire time, as he wanted me to take over the business.
Yeah.
But he gave me enough room for me to grow and not fight him as much, I would say.
Yeah. You're the oldest too, right?
I'm the youngest.
Oh, you're the youngest.
I'm the youngest.
Dang. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so kind of when I bailed, it kind of like...
He's like, yeah, we got one more choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was one of those things. Like, it was kind of like, in my eyes, the perfect storm of everything happening when it did.
Yeah.
Me being at the tail end of high school, and at the time, just like, I knew that it was something I could do. I was good at it. And then I was...
And you're already gone in the Army, doing your thing.
And I was kind of just coming into my own of realizing, like, there's like... I think it's like one of the first things, like, 'cause baseball wise, I was mediocre at best. Like, I knew that I had to work hard enough to make sure I made the team. Like, I knew I could always work hard enough to make the team. I wasn't overly talented at all. For me, tint was something that, like, it was the first time that I was like, I know I'm real good at this, and I know I'm one of the top installers. And then, like, I went all in, and I wanted to prove that I'm one of the best in my industry, no matter what. Yeah. And then I just kind of fell down that rabbit hole. Just all with the timing of it, I would say.
I was actually just we had a lunch just now, and there was like 20 of my employees in there, and they're like, Ryan, we're trying to figure out our goals for next year. We need to do like this mastermind session. I'm like, all right. So literally, like, what I do with you guys in one-on-one, I just start like getting on the board and talking about things and whatever, right? And one of the themes was everyone has shiny object syndrome in today's world, right? We all want to be like this thing and this side hustle and that side hustle. And I was just telling them, I'm like, most successful people in the world are just good at one thing. There's very rarely people that are like world class at multiple things. Like for you to become the best window tinter in the industry, you better be like all in on window tinting and just honing your craft, getting better every single day. You want to be great at baseball? It's like, you got to just go all in at baseball. Can't be tinting windows and trying to play baseball, And so that's kind of what I was telling them. It's like, you see like really ultra talented people who might be like multifaceted, but they're like the exception, like if you grew up in window tinting, it better than freaking anyone else in the world. And it's like, do you give up that competitive advantage because you want to go and now be a real estate investor? Or do you just go all in on tinting? And I always tell people, go all in on one skill.
Yeah, no, that's where I got extremely lucky. And like I said, it's kind of a perfect storm of how the events played out through him leaving me. Like I was already there and I was at an age where I wanted to buy my own house. My dad pushed us to want to go own things. It's like, you need to buy a home. Like he pushed us early. Like I was lucky enough to buy a home when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
Like I got extremely lucky. I bought in 2010 and like that was probably the best thing my dad did for me.
Yeah.
Because at that time, obviously housing, was pretty cheap.
The lowest it was ever been.
Yeah. And then through the past 14 years, taking that house, selling the house at the right time, and then moving to the house I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Without my dad setting that up for me, I wouldn't have what I have right now.
Yeah. It made you hundreds of thousands just from that decision.
Yep.
So with that being said, right, we're talking about window tinting, and I said like it's a potential side hustle for a lot of people. Most people don't even realize like tinting. I didn't realize this until I started working with you guys that like it's not just cars. Yep. A lot of your guys' revenue is made from tinting houses and the windows of homes. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I didn't even realize that's this big market. Like I'd never seen anyone advertising for it. I know commercial buildings like think about it a lot, but it's becoming more popular with residential. So with, just side hustles, you were doing it from a youth. Like what do window tinters, what can they make like learning this skill?
After you pick it up, you can make anywhere from, in my eyes, 75 up to, depending on how much you want to travel, because subcontracting work up to $250,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, there's subcontractors that are putting security film up every day in Texas right now that are killing it.
Yeah.
Why is Texas so hot?
They just mandated security film on every school in Texas, like this Texas legislation.
Oh, wow.
They like put money aside and said that there's a date that they all need to be done by for.
Now with security film, what exactly is it? Is it like make it bulletproof or like what's the
no, not bulletproof.
That's the biggest thing. An article was actually just released in the Wall Street Journal talking about that. And unfortunately, there is a portion of our industry that will not put the whole truth out there when they're talking about security film. Security film is a deterrent to slow someone down. It's not going to stop them from getting in. They will get in eventually. It's not bulletproof. The criteria to meet, match or hit bulletproof, there isn't a manufacturer out there that will produce a film that will back that claim. So like I said, unfortunately, there are businesses in our industry that will be very vague of how they word it to where they're not necessarily lying, but they're not giving you the full truth when it comes down to it.
So they're saying it is bulletproof?
Yeah,
some of them?
Unfortunately,
like Elon with the Cybertruck or what?
What they'll say is that a certain caliber and from standing a certain... So
or they'll call it ballistic because some of it, it is also installed in areas that have like tornadoes and they have done ballistic testing for like, a tree coming through the window. It might slow it down, but it's not going to stop a bullet. Yeah. The idea is to slow somebody down. At a school, you've got a lot of glass. You got a lot of doors that are glass, tempered glass. When you break it, it just hits the ground and you can walk right in like 3 seconds. The film is going to slow them down. It's going to take someone, even after they've shot a window, 2 to 3 minutes of smashing, kicking it to possibly, eventually get through. So it's
literally just if somebody wants to try and break in the school and break a window.
If they were trying to slow them down, buy that extra couple minutes to either police show up or you put other preventive measures in to either get the kids in the right spot.
Yeah, you can see them trying to break in, you run away.
Yeah.
Time is all about just slowing it down.
And the other thing that unfortunately plagues security film is it being installed properly, which thankfully a lot of the manufacturers now aren't selling certain thicknesses of films without actually going to the certification training, to where you actually are putting it on properly. And then after you put the film on, like on tempered glass, if you do not put a wet glaze or attachment system around the edge of the window, even if I put the film on, if you do not attach it to the frame, it's just going to fall all in as one sheet.
Yeah.
So you have to put a proper attachment system on to where it holds it in place, to where it actually buys the time that you're saying it's going to buy you.
Got it. So for those who are like thinking about a potential side hustle or career in window tint, right? I mean, you said guys could make, $250,000 going to Texas, right? Like, how would you even get those jobs and learn how to do it?
Learn how to do it. That is something that this past year that I was thinking about myself, and we actually spawned. We're in the works right now. We've actually built the studio out. We're actually going to stand up a flat glass academy to help fulfill our labor needs when it comes down to it, because that's the biggest bottleneck in our industry right now, even for the bigger guys in our industry, is needing installers.
Yeah.
So
so if you can produce a bunch of people to do it, like there's jobs available.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. One of our manufacturers, SolarGuard, actually backed us and helped stand up the academy, because they see the glaring hole in the industry too, is they can sell as much film as they want. If they don't have the installers with their dealers to install it, it doesn't matter.
So that's what people have been saying too. Like there's just a huge labor shortage in all the trades.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Plumbers, and electricians,
the tin industry is a young trade too, right? So late 70s, early 80s, when our dad started, it was kind of a young, brand new trade compared to plumbing, electricians, glass. All these other things have been around for century plus, right? Window film's young, and there aren't any accredited schools to go to learn it.
How did window film even start? Yeah, like if it's that young, did somebody just was like, hey, it'd be cool if it was darker?
Yeah, I think 3M got the first patent on tint.
I think it was 3M that got the first
in
patent
like the 60s. There's a wave of like liquid film for making windows darker in like the 70s. And then it's really come a long way from when our dad started. Like the film that he started with, just like tooling it down, when you squeegee it on the window, it would scratch.
Yeah.
Compared to what it is now, we've got films with like lifetime warranty.
At what point did they start wrapping cars and stuff? Not just the windows, but
like paint protection, early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
I think
so that's new.
Yeah,
that's super new.
Yeah, I got certified in PPF in 2004.
Wow, I did not realize that's that recent.
Yeah, that's seen huge growth. If you look at like,
I've wrapped all my cars. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's that was something where my dad handed me a roll and was just like, here, do it. And I was like, what am I doing? Just squeegee it
Just
on.
make it look good.
Oh, yeah. And the early products were an absolute nightmare to work with, which I'm very happy I got to work with them, because now I work with the new stuff, and it's like, oh my God, this is so much easier. And it's a lot easier to translate and train people to do it now. But yeah, that early 2000s is when paint protection came into the scene. And even car wraps too. When it comes down to it, early graphics in the early 2000s was just cut stickers and stuff like that. As they started developing vinyl to actually being able to conform and wrap to a vehicle, that was early 2000s too.
Yeah.
So they were doing stickers on cars?
Yeah.
Because vinyl and stuff isn't a sticker, right? Like it's a sticker too?
Yeah.
Technically,
the
it's just a
vinyl
real
material's
nice vinyl.
gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like it's like an air release now. So when you wrap a vehicle, the old vinyl we used to use was like sticky. You had to put it on wet. It didn't like the new stuff you can put on dry. You can pull it back off. It stretches. The technology on that has gone. It's so much better. It's insane.
I mean, even looking at our company vehicles from earlier years to where they are now, it started off as white vans with our logo, phone number, website, just in cut vinyl. And now they're fully wrapped, orange, different.
Print whatever you
want on them.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, you guys have wrapped a couple of my cars here in Vegas. So you guys did my Tesla, and then you guys did my dad's car with the graphic.
Yes.
So it's got just a picture of me just freaking saying, I'll buy your house.
Yeah. But the training in the industry really has been all like apprenticeship. Basically, you just would go work for someone who's already doing it and kind of learn in-house. That's
on the job training.
That's kind of what it's been.
Just apprenticeship.
Historically. And hopefully whoever's teaching you knows what they're doing. What's really crazy is when our dad started, there wasn't YouTube or the internet or anything. And everybody didn't want the guy down the road to know
how to do it.
To know how to do it. So like even when he moved here in 92, he would go into local shops and like bet them that he could tint a back window in one piece, because people were still doing back windows in multiple pieces.
They had no idea.
They didn't know how to shrink it yet.
Yeah.
So he had just learned how to shrink it and would come out and like bet people that he could tint back windows in one piece.
How did he learn? Just trial and error.
Some guy selling a video.
No,
He bought a course.
So, yeah,
a
some
VHS.
guy told him. If not, some guy told him that he could do it, and he said, "No, you can't." And then he's
Was that a car show? I think.
And it was like $1,000. He paid some guy $1,000 to come to his shop.
Yeah.
And he did it in front of him. But my dad also packed the room behind him that had like a piece of tin on it, so it looked like a one-way mirror, to where a bunch
Everyone
of guys
was watching.
Everyone was watching at the same time. I'm fairly certain he charged all them to where he didn't pay nothing.
Yeah.
When it came down to it.
I love that.
Yeah. But what's crazy is we've had people on our podcast that were in Canada that didn't learn to shrink until like 8 years later than when he did. That's how long it took to get there.
To migrate.
Yeah, because you didn't have YouTube, right? Now everybody's training each other and
Yeah, because you guys, the first time we started working together is you guys wanted to learn social media.
Yeah.
And so you guys started doing a, window tinting podcast and, doing other kind of content. Like, how has content changed the business?
Dramatically. So the tail end of 23, that's when 22, we had a good year. 23 was the first year that we actually had a decline.
Yeah.
And then we actually started looking inward. All right, what's going on? Looking at our marketing, and really started thinking about how we could change things. And then one of your ads popped up on my phone, which I was already following you just because local baseball, I already knew of you. And I was following your content, and then an ad popped up. Do you want to do your own podcast? He'd been pitching the idea to me for a couple of years. And me being more of a process driven person, I told him, give me a skeleton. Tell me how we're going to do this. What cameras, what things are we going to use? It's not just, hey, we're going to do this and then it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a lot of work in between this.
Yeah.
And then when your ad popped up, it was use my team, and I knew that you were local, and it's like, hold on, I put in for it. You guys reached back out to us.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, you can use a studio in house. And I was like, all right, here's our in.
Yeah.
This is how we can learn, and we can have somewhere to go. It's in house. It's in our
right
city.
here.
It's right here. And then that buy-in was probably one of the smartest things we did, just to kind of start putting out organic content and being consistent with it.
Yeah, like how did that change? I mean, because you guys are a local business, right? So a lot of people always ask me this with content. They're like, well, how do I get local people, right? Because like for me anyways, my audience is everywhere. So it's not just Vegas anymore. But, you guys are doing this window tint podcast, which people would first think like, okay, I don't see how that really gets more customers. So how has it been working out?
it's been crazy. So kind of my thesis on it was, and when he sent me the link that you were offering to help with a podcast, I was already following you also. I think I had just seen you talk to Caleb, who's with Hermosi now, who used to be with Gary Vee.
Yep.
Who I followed forever. And the idea to me was like, okay, now we're going to finally have a consistent stream of short clips that in these conversations that we're having that might be tint industry specific, we're going to go out of our way to talk about tinting homes. Most people still don't know that you can tint your home. You drive down an average street in Vegas right now, maybe 1 out of 10, 15 houses has some window film on the windows.
Maybe.
Yeah, if that.
I don't even think it's that much.
No.
So it's like, how can we put the awareness out there? People from the industry are obviously going to follow along, and that's cool. But also, I know that people in town are going to see it. And what's crazy is I didn't think the results would be as quick as they were. I've been doing outside sales since March this year. And we didn't start posting the podcast until November. And I would say at least 10 times a week, I'll ask every customer, how'd you find us? Or how'd you even know you could tint your home? I have people saying, I saw you guys on Instagram, and it's one of the clips from the podcast. I even had people tell me that they actually listened to an entire podcast.
So they probably saw and that was always been my premise, right? Yep. They saw a clip of you being like, tint on your home, we'll do X, Y, Z. And they're like, oh, what?
Yeah. I mean, it's hot out here. That's why our dad moved us out here, is the energy savings from film is insane.
He knew this would be a great market to tint.
Yes.
Yeah. Even for cars too, like the heat rejection on cars. But for houses, the energy that you're losing in the summer from your AC going out your windows is insane.
Yeah.
A lot of newer homes are having nice glass now, nice low E glass, but we can still improve that drastically. So I would say 60% of the homes we're tinting is for energy savings.
Got it. So for those people who don't, by the way, let's actually talk about this, because most people don't know you can tint a home. I didn't even realize. I mean, I guess in hindsight, I've seen it, but it's just like, it wouldn't occur to me that, I need to get my home windows tinted. So why would someone tint their homes? Like, what is the cost? What's the savings? And what's the pitch, I should say?
It depends on, I would say, the home itself. If you technically have an older home, you have dual pane, annealed glass, say you don't have a low E coating or anything like that, like your windows are just bleeding heat when it comes down to it. So it would be to keep the solar heat outside your house, reduce the load on your AC unit.
Privacy, security film, which we kind of already talked about a little bit, but people.
So privacy wise, you could do like the two-sided one, right? Yep. They can't look in.
Yep. During the day. That's another thing we always try to make sure people are really clear on is we can be completely private during the day. At night, it's kind of like hotels on the strip. You can't see into those
when you
windows.
turn the light on.
Yeah, at night, you're going to lose some of that privacy. It'll still be more private than a clear piece of glass, but it's not going to be as private as it is during the day. And it really glare on TV. Sometimes you got up high windows that you didn't put window coverings on that happen to get west-facing sun. Decorative films, so frost, like a shower window. I mean, there's a lot of different options. So it really depends on what they're looking for.
And that was kind of a big driving force too of doing the podcast when it does come down to it, was put out as much information as possible, letting people know that you can tint your house. Because I mean, cars wise, most people know you can tint your cars. It gets talked about in songs, and it's just kind of like a known thing that you can tint your car.
Yeah.
House wise though, is such a big part of our industry, technically the money making side of our industry.
Yeah.
But no one knows you can do it.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it. So we wanted to put out as much content as humanly possible, just talking about it, because that just raises the question, oh, you can do that.
Yep. Bring more awareness for it.
Yeah.
And plus it helps that he's won the international window tint competition for architectural window tinting house windows, building windows 4 times. I've won it once. So it was like, if we start this podcast, we have people.
Were you guys competing?
Yeah, we've competed against each other.
He's never beat me.
Yeah,
but he won it once. How did he win it once?
He wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
Yeah, he intentionally didn't come.
No,
He ducked me.
No, I was.
What, you had one good year, he ducked you?
Then he had me not come this year.
No.
So we've actually won the last 3 years in a row. I won 22, he won 23 and 24.
Yeah. We were running a business, and not all of us could go, so I had to make a business decision.
Because you guys got more traffic and more customers.
Yeah, and it was one of those things. The year that he went and I didn't go, I technically was supposed to go, because the kind of in-house rules that we had was, if you make the top 10, if you make the finals of any one of the divisions that you're competing in, you have an automatic bid back to go compete again.
Got it.
The previous year I made the finals. Going into the year that I sent him, I was supposed to go, and it kind of became like an internal like fight between me and him. And like at one point, it was like I was trying to convince our auto manager, like, hey, like pretty much side with me. But then I realized, like, hold on, I don't get paid to compete. I get paid to run this company. And there was another event that was like 3 weeks later that if I would have went to that, I wasn't going to that. And that other event was more business oriented, and that's where I needed more growth. So I told him, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go. I'm going to send you, but you better come home with that trophy.
Yeah. And you did.
He did.
Yeah, it's funny. We're both big into Jocko Willink and like reading his books and his podcasts and stuff, and he totally Jocko'd me.
Yeah. It's like, all right, you can do it.
Yeah. You know, competing's fun.
How do you win a window tinting competition?
So it's a timed event where you only have so much time to tint the window, and then the judges come in and judge it for quality.
Got it.
So are there gaps on the edge?
The best tint you could do in the time.
Yeah. So the only reason why they have the time is to apply pressure.
Yeah.
Because if you give me an ample amount of time, I'm going to give you a damn near perfect window.
Everyone can give a really good window.
Yeah, but one of the judges actually said something, not this year, but last year, that I actually really liked. So the other reason, they shortened some of the times up and made them even less time to put more pressure. But also there's business owners that are sending installers there, and you do want your installers to be able to put it on quickly, because then it makes your business more profitable. So the time element does matter.
Oh, and
for profitability.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it played into my strong suit, because when I was the main installer for the first portion of my career, like I understood that time is money. The more panes, the more windows I can do in a day or at a house, that means the more square footage I can put up, the more money I can make. So how do I make this process perfect to where I can cut out as much time as possible, but still end up with the highest quality install? I mean, that's the one thing my dad hammered home with us, is that quality is king. You can do something fast. It doesn't matter. If you're not doing it right, you don't have a quality install, it doesn't matter.
It don't matter.
Because referrals are everything. Like over half of our business still, even with the increase in social media marketing, is referrals and repeat customers. Once you make somebody happy, they're a customer for life, especially when they didn't even know the product existed. You put the film on.
There's not even any other referral.
Yeah.
It's not like this thing where it's commoditized and there's so many different.
And that kind of brings back
sources.
to your question earlier on how someone getting into it can make money. If you're someone that is detail oriented, I think it's kind of an art, really, and you want to work hard. The sky's the limit. Like the guys that are making up to $250, that's because they're going and working on commercial jobs.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 60 days in a row, just putting square footage up.
City to city.
If you get good enough to put up a couple thousand square feet a day, like
You're gonna make some money.
you're gonna make some money. Yeah.
What? How much time do they give you in that competition?
So in the first round is 15 minutes to do one window, and that's the time.
That's flat glass.
That's
the
flat glass.
residential.
Yeah, for residential. So you have a standard window. It's about 3x5, and it's in a commercial frame. And they make you install it in a way that you usually like no one does. You have to leave the rubber gaskets in. Most commercial windows, you yank those out. You put the film up and you put them back in. It leaves you with no gap, and
Yeah.
it ends up being gorgeous. In this scenario, you can't either cut or pull the rubbers, so you have to install it with it already just sitting the way it is.
Yeah.
Which everyone kind of bitches about, like, well, none of us install like that, and which in my eyes is a good idea because then it puts everyone on the same playing field. No one installs this way, so now solve the problem.
Let's see who's the naturally talented.
Exactly. So you get 15 minutes in the first round. The top 8 make it to the finals, which you usually do one window that's on like 6 feet off the ground, so you have to work off a ladder. It's odd shaped. It's trapezoid, odd shaped window. This year they threw us a curveball, and as we walked up to get our film, they're like, "You're tinting the top window and the bottom window, and the time's not increasing. You had 25 minutes to do 2 windows." So that, I mean, again, that for me, when I told him about that change, he was like, "Well, that plays right into what you're like. That's my strong suit. Is I
Adapting.
well that
And he's fast. I've tinted with a lot of tinners. He's by far the fastest person I've ever tinted with.
Why do you think you're so much faster?
I don't know. I guess I've always had a chip on my shoulder at every installer that's come into our shop. I've wanted to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
One of our installers when we were young that our dad had that was with us for a while, he was really fast. He was really, really fast. So that definitely helped. Like there was definitely some competition there with
yeah,
him.
but I got really lucky in the fact that I got exposed to my dad was the first person who trained me. He taught me quality.
Yeah.
He's slow as a snail.
I was gonna say, when
he's
you just
one
meet
of
your
the
dad.
slowest.
Oh, he was
tinners.
just slow.
In the time that I tint 5 windows, he'll tint like 8. My dad maybe will get 1 done.
But it'll come out perfect, which that is the end goal.
Yeah.
So learning from him, but then also being exposed to my dad trained him, so watching him install and then watching the gambit of other installers we've had come through our shops throughout my entire life. We've had fast installers, we've had slow installers, we've had horrible quality installers, we've had everything. So I've been able to sit back and watch people install. And then as I got older and in my early 20s, and fortunately maybe a little too cocky, like it's just like someone would say, you can't do that. And I'd be like, okay, watch. And it's like, you can't install that way. I'm like, okay, watch. And then I do it, and then the quality would be the same. And so what's the problem? And that's just something. And then I really started breaking down every job, realizing that if I walk into a job with say 50 panes, I have 8 hours to do it. Start doing the math. Like time is time. Like you only have so much time per window. If you're going to get 50 panes done in 8 hours, like you've got to figure out how much time I need to be spending on each window to make sure I get this job done. Because no matter what, the job's got to get done by the end of the day.
Yeah. We were talking about that, before this, and just your guys' business as a whole, and what we got to do to scale it in 2025. And, the biggest expense really in the business is labor. Mm-hmm. And, we were just saying like, well, with the same amount of labor, you guys should still do more next year because your guys are trained up and better now. And so theoretically, if you have like, a bunch of your guys like your dad before doing 1, and then they can become doing 3 or 4 or 5 in the same time, it's like, well, yeah, that's a lot more revenue.
Well, and that's also about how much a tinner can make. That's why it's such a huge gap from say like 75,000 a year up to 250. It's where do you want to be? How much work do you want to put in? How good do you want to be as an installer? Because I can teach you how to tint quality. How fast do you want to be? Because that's a completely different skill upon itself.
Well, the thing is too, it's not even just how much time you want to put in, because both are going to still put in 8-hour days. It's just who's more efficient.
Yes.
While maintaining quality.
Yeah.
Like that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I tell people that too when it comes to like working. Even for me, right? I mean, I work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. We don't work weekends. And I'm like, well, I still accomplish more than almost anyone. And it's not that like I'm working harder or more hours. It's just more efficient. It's more skilled.
that's been the biggest, I'd say, argument or back and forth between me and him is efficiency. That's one thing that I would say that I hyper focus on is efficiency.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to get more done.
For sure.
It cut out all of the bullshit moves when it comes down to it, and still have the same quality, but like everything you just did in between, you're wasting time when it comes down to it.
What's funny is we've had projects like where we did one whole side of the palms. It was just the two of us, and it was like the entire end cap behind the screen. They've got one whole side of the palms that has a screen on it. Mm-hmm. Every single room behind that screen has windows that the room light coming through was like messing with it. Mm-hmm. So we had to tint all of those windows. And when I'm side by side with him, like we were going just side by side on the same windows, I can keep up with him because I'm just mimicking what he's doing. But yeah, the efficiency.
He's like, I don't know that you can, but
on that job, we were side by side the whole way.
I would say I was coming over to your room.
I can keep up with him if I'm mimicking him.
But if you're on your own, you're going to naturally go slower.
Yeah. That's why
because you're competing. You're like, I can't let him get ahead.
Yeah. Well, and that we had to move. We had to tint all of those windows twice in 2 days. So we're moving.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm doing sales now.
That's what sparked me though in becoming a faster tinter and trying to, I guess that was my end goal, to say in my eyes, what's the best tinter? Because it's, yes, you have to have quality, but how fast are you doing it?
Yeah.
Because if you do say typical house right now is 250 square feet, that could take someone an entire day.
Yeah.
Like you're going to make good money, but you're never going to touch six figures. If you want to get up there, you got to be putting up at least minimally 600 to 700 square feet in a day, which the only way to do that is you better be as efficient as humanly goddamn possible.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were talking about this today with KPIs, right? You know, we have the pre-KPIs and the post-KPIs. So the pre would be, hey, your quality is your quality. Like if you don't have the right quality, you're out.
Yeah.
Like you can't even work here.
Yeah.
Right? That's just a non-negotiable. But the post would be, all right, well, okay, assuming quality's good, how many did you actually do? Because we can't have you, doing 100 square feet a day. Like it's just not going to work. We need you to do at least X.
Yeah. No, and it definitely even comes down to I always thought it was square footage I was eyeing after. It's not even square footage. It's how many panes. Because you could have 100 square feet and it be 40 windows because they're all little windows.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time.
And those are nightmares. But then you'll have a job that's say 300, 400 square feet. That's 11 windows. It's all sliding glass doors, huge 5x10 windows.
Yep.
That something like that's a tinter's dream right there.
It's way easier.
You can get that done in a couple hours.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah. So it really just depends on the project itself. It's like we do residential and commercial, but still in our industry where most installers are going to want to go to is commercial windows, because most of the time commercial windows are all big panes.
Yep.
They're all the same usually, and then you can usually get into a good rhythm doing a commercial job, because it's all that you can get your process dialed in to know exactly, all right, I'm doing this wall. This is exactly how I'm going to do this wall.
Yeah. So this brings up another point, right? Both of you guys spent time literally becoming the best in the world at the act of tinting windows. You guys got awards to show for it, and it's gone great. But today, neither of you really tint many windows, right? Because now you're in different roles in the company. And even we've talked about this. Every time you guys tint windows, I'm like, why are you guys tinting windows, right? It's not a good use of your time.
Yeah.
So how has it been learning these new skills of, like, I would say going from like tradesman to business owner?
I would say just as enjoyable as the beginning part of my career. I do think about every once in a while how awesome it would be just to walk onto a job and just
knock it out,
just tint windows, and that's all I had to worry about. But no, it's been a fun journey. Definitely new problems. I'd say that's another big reason. I would say us thankfully being able to learn from you has been very beneficial for us, because when it comes down to it, I can tint the hell out of a house, but when it comes to business, I only kind of know what I know, and that's where it ends. And it's like, I want to learn from someone who has already kind of made those mistakes, or if they haven't made those mistakes, I've already went through those hurdles, and why trip over that stuff myself?
Yeah. I made every mistake in the book. I can already tell you. And then now you're, like you said, you're in sales now. And so that's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Well, you were in sales before. But.
Yeah, kind of over the years I had done it. When I was in my own location in Texas, I was selling and installing and kind of doing everything. I've always enjoyed it. I like that being the focus. Unfortunately, when we get crazy busy like the summer, we were so booked out that, you know, I'd sell a job and not have anywhere to schedule it, and I'd just find a spot to put it in my schedule.
Yeah.
So that kind of did still happen this year a little bit, but it's been nice, and definitely realizing that we know what we don't know, and, you know, hiring mentors and working with you and figuring out the stuff that we don't know and trying to like dial that in and make the business a real business. Cause for years it was just like the family business that's everybody's getting paychecks, and, you know, our parents' motto was like, stay small, keep it all. Mm-hmm. And we actually want to grow this thing into a real business. And, you know, we're at 16, 17 employees now.
Yep.
This year was amazing. So the growth this year was insane, and I don't think we could have done it without, you know, your help for sure.
Yeah.
My sister and myself went to actually one of Hermosi's workshops early in the year, and that was kind of an eye opener on like looking at the numbers of the business a little differently.
Yep.
And then when the opportunity came to work with you one-on-one, it was like, yeah, we got to do that.
Oh yeah. Without a doubt. And like besides besides Hermosi, like me and him, we've went to one of Jocko's leadership seminars.
Yep.
Just because when it comes down to it, I said I know how to tint, but I need to learn how to actually lead and actually run a business. Communication. That's the biggest thing that I have been trying to grow myself in, is communicating.
Yeah.
Is make sure that I'm getting my point across of what needs to be done, not necessarily how it needs to be done, just what needs to be done, and then actually empowering my people to.
Yeah, the way you deliver the message, the tonality, everything about it.
I was saying the tint off that he didn't go to and I went to, he totally jockoed me. When I came back and had been in the military, like having experienced that leadership style and the way the military is, people I think have the wrong perception of like how leadership is in the military because of, you know, Full Metal Jacket or whatever.
Yeah.
The leadership style is actually, it's all about taking care of your guys.
Yeah.
So like when you become a non-commissioned officer, your job is to train your guys to become a non-commissioned officer. And you have someone above you that's training you to do their job, and just the whole culture of that, coming back into the business and trying to communicate with him. You know, there's a different way to do it than the way Dad did it. Getting into Jocko and getting him into Jocko, all of a sudden we like had this language that like all of a sudden we could communicate a little bit better.
Yeah.
And going to that muster and like developing the leadership. I don't know, just nonstop trying to improve. I think that definitely comes from growing up doing sports, and that's definitely something that our dad pushed that I didn't realize he was teaching us at the time. But I think that's been the big thing, is realizing, okay, there's always someone we can learn more from, whether it's leadership, business specific, marketing, whatever. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to just now having to learn new skills, right? Because I tell this to, especially since we coach a lot of real estate investors, it's like, okay, the idea of flipping a house is a skill set, you know, learning to analyze a deal, go raise the money, manage the contractors, like all those things are needed to go flip a house. But the moment you decide to not be the one doing the thing now and to hire other people to do it for you, you now got to learn how to lead them. You got to learn how to train them. You got to learn how to hold them accountable. You got to learn how to hire people and recruit people. You got to learn how to fire people, build SOPs so that, you know, you could take what's in your mind and have somebody else follow it without you just, you know, always showing them how to do it.
That was probably one of my first hurdles, was not micromanaging and realizing at first I thought I wasn't, and then actually finally kind of stepping back and taking a look at what I was doing and realizing, hold on, I still kind of am. I'm not allowing my people to actually try for themselves before I even step in and try to do it, or do it for them, or take it out of their hands. That was probably my biggest growth, I would say, this past year and a half. Mm-hmm. It was actually like, actually let them try. Yes, they're going to fail. That's how I learned, was I got the opportunity, I tried, I made a mistake, learned from the mistake, move forward.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one of my biggest, I'd say, growths this past year, was actually us with scaling the business up, actually putting people in the proper spots instead of trying to oversee everything.
Yeah.
You know, we have about 16 people now. Yeah. And trying to manage 16 people at once, you can't do it.
Yeah. When we first looked at the org chart, there was you. It was like responsible for everything. Yeah.
So it was, getting that implemented was definitely a big help. And we're definitely seeing the benefits of it now.
Yeah. You got a lot more free time these days than before.
Yes.
But now it's filled with new things.
Yes. Which the things that we wanted to get into anyway was like, we want to grow. We want to train. We want to train our salespeople because we're bringing people in because we actually have a sales team now. We've never really had a sales team. It was always my dad. That's what he was. Like, we were the installers. My dad went and did the sales. We went and installed. When he had his stroke, it was instantly like, all right, we have this hole. We actually have a position that we've never had to fill, outside sales. My cousin stepped in, and she did an amazing job for when she took over, and then she ended up having a couple kids, and then it came to the point where now my brother took over, and then we ended up hiring another person out to where now we have 2 people in outside sales, and then you brought to our attention like, hey, you need inside sales too. Yeah. So we had bringing 2 people on inside sales, and now bringing those people in, same thing. Like, they only know what they know. Like, I can do sales. I don't so much enjoy it. I can do it because of my knowledge in the industry. I can talk about the products at depth. It makes the customer very comfortable. They know that I know what I'm talking about when it comes down to it. But now it's my job to be able to pass that information along to my inside sales to whenever they bump up against someone where they ask me this question, what would you say? Yeah. And then it's either I'll listen to what they said and they'll get off a phone call. I'll be like, all right, this is how I would say it. Yeah. You know, just because it's just how it's going to come off is a lot more fluid. And you're going to be able to answer the question a lot better that way too when it comes down to it. So now I'm able to actually help train our inside sales, and then also train our installers, because there are a lot of people that will come in. We've had installers through the years that I'm installing for 6-7 years. Okay, let me see what you can do. And it's like, I don't care how you get from point A to point B. What you do in between doesn't bother me at all until you start having the same issue over and over again. And then I'm going to step in and say, hey, why don't you try this? And if your response to that, well, that's not how I was trained, that's probably where the road ends, because you're just pretty much telling me that you don't want to change in your ways, but you keep having the same problem. And I'm trying to tell you, like, try this. I'm not saying do it this way. Try it. See how it goes.
Test it.
Yeah, test it out and see how it changes the way you install. Like, the way we install obviously is completely different. We were trained by practically the same people when it comes down to it. Yeah. But our process is completely different. Yeah. But we still end up with the same result when it comes down to it. So now I'm able to focus on our guys on the inside. We like bringing people in that necessarily don't have
bad habits.
Well, yeah. You don't have to, we've definitely had more success over the years bringing someone in who has nothing to do with our industry. Yeah. I want to know that, do you have a good attitude? Can you work with other people? Are you a good team player when it comes down to it? And do you want to learn? Yeah. If you want to learn, I can teach you how to tint. I can teach anyone how to tint.
How quickly could someone get up and going?
That's what we're trying to refine right now. So how we would usually do it prior, it was on the job training when it comes down to it. And we've gotten that to a point of about 6 months of bringing someone in, taking them from knowing nothing to where they're a commissioned tinter.
That's a lot. That's a long time.
That was my biggest push of my kind of like brainchild from last year, is wanting to open an academy, because you need somewhere to install, because there's nowhere where you can really sit there and train on a bunch of different types of windows and not do it in front of a customer. Like, you can only train so much in someone's house. You let them perfect one little craft at a time. Now that we have a studio in house, I can now stand behind them and let them know, like, all right, I'm going to stop you if I see you do something that no matter what you try to tell me, you don't do it. Yeah. But if it's a certain way of doing it to where I know there's about 10 to 15 different ways of doing it, I'm gonna let you know, this is how I do it. This is how I found my success. Yeah. And this is how it can be done. And then I'm gonna let you try that out and see if you take to it or not. But also tell you to, like, go online. There are some useful videos out there of people installing.
Yeah, there is, but what's funny is something I was going to bring up is if you go on YouTube right now and search like commercial window tint, there'll be people that have instructional videos teaching you how to do it. Every single one of them will be doing it a different way. Yeah. Like, there's not like one thing uniform about any of those videos. I was just looking at them the other day. So it's like, there's definitely...
Yeah, I think what I've realized over the years too, training a lot of people, right? You could do real estate a lot of different ways. And the longer I'm in this, the more I don't want to say force people to do it a certain way, but really standardize it. I'm like, look, could you succeed this way? For sure, but just do it this way. Yeah. This is going to give you the best chance of success. Generate your leads this way. Talk to the seller this way. Like, it's kind of like the franchise model. Like, this is how we do it. There's lots of ways to cook a burger, but we just need you to do it this way. Oh yeah, no, we just started trickling out some videos of us doing training inside our facility, and like one of the videos popped, and it's like the first couple comments we got on there is there's, I guess,
I'm trying to perfect myself as a teacher when it comes down to it. Because that's, I mean, when you said, when we went from installers to being entrepreneurs or actually running the business, it's like I went from something I knew I could do 100% to I'm in a completely different.
Best in the world.
Well, yeah.
Hey, you got the awards. Claim it.
Well, beyond that, then now I'm going into something now it's like running a business. It's completely new.
Yeah.
I know the industry, but running a business, I only knew what I was kind of taught by my dad.
Yeah.
And, and to where now I'm looking outward. Anytime I'm in a room with someone I know that is more successful or has a bigger business, I am asking questions. I am curious. That's what made me a better installer too, is when I went to go compete, I was watching other people.
Yeah.
I want to see what they're doing.
You're like, wow, I've never thought about doing it that way.
And then I see them do it and I walk over to them. Why'd you do that? And it's like, now I'm just doing the same thing on the business side is, all right, why would you do that? Like every time we sit down with you every month and we talk, it's like, I'll see you explain something and I'm asking, okay, why? Yeah. Or within it, you're already explaining it in a way to where you answer my question as I'm already thinking of it and then it gets answered. I'm like, okay, got it. When it comes down to it. But like I was putting out these videos, the comments we're getting on them is like, oh, why are you doing that first? I've been doing this my whole life. That makes no sense. And it's like, because if you watch the whole video, you're going to hear me say like, this is the way I've found my success. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know I'm pretty damn good at what I do. Yeah. If anyone has any questions about it, come to a competition. Yeah. Like I'm still competing. Like I've already wanted to take myself out of that. And I'm being told by multiple people within our industry, why are you going to step away when you're on top? And it's like, I'm on top right now. Like don't stop competing until the people you're training are beating you.
Brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
So what about social media, right? So you're talking about social media again. Obviously the podcast has gone really good. You guys are posting now training videos, tutorial videos. How was it like developing that skill set, right? Because I don't think window tinters are naturally inclined to be podcast hosts and,
No. So how you guys onboarded us, I think it was perfect. When, like looking back at it, I think we had like the first 11 episodes down where it was just pretty much just get comfortable in front of the camera. And you guys did give us kind of like a play-by-play of like, have questions ready, kind of know what you want to kind of touch on for what kind of clips you want to pull out of it. And then I think the 11th one, I think that was the first time we met Justin. Yeah. And he introduced himself, explained who he was and everything, and then told us, this is what you need to be working on now. And it was like, nice to know that like 11 episodes ago, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been ready for that information. Right. I would have went right over the top of my head. Yeah. To where so he said that all to us and it's like, I want to go back and reshoot every single episode we did. And listening to him too. Yeah, I would go back and listen to the first couple I listened to, and then it's like I stopped listening to him just because it's weird listening to him. But I'd hear myself repeat things over and over again. Yeah. And it's like, all right, that's where it's focus on it, but don't overly focus on it because that's not going to come off natural. Just have a natural conversation when it comes down to it. And then it got to the point where now when we sit down, when I get the response from the person across from us, like, oh, have we started recording yet? And it's like, yeah, we're 20 minutes in. Yes, we've started. Yeah. Like that's where I know, all right, we're having a good conversation. Yeah. When it comes down to it. And it's just like, I look at it now as a 2-hour time at the most, an hour and a half to 2 hours of I get to have a selfish conversation where I'm just trying to pick your brain about your business. If it's within our industry, if it's someone we're having on, I want to know what they're doing. Like I think the episode we're putting out, I think this week, Allie from Ace of Shades, she blew up her social media. And it's like, size-wise, she just opened her first brick and mortar shop, but her social media makes ours look horrible. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I got to sit there and have an hour and a half conversation about how she did it, how she put everything together. Yeah. And even when it comes to talking to someone not in our industry, we've had people just business-wise, I get to have a 2-hour conversation about business, which I already know. I only know what I know. And I want to try to soak out as much as possible from how to help grow my business when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
So it's just getting comfortable with the fact of you're just having that conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been a little over a year now. How much better are you guys now just doing it now for a year?
Well, what's crazy is we were recording in here in your studio, and like the whole way it started, you guys were editing it, all of that. Now we actually have Jordan is in-house doing all of that. He's actually switching as we're recording. He's the one cutting out the clips. We're cranking out a lot more now. I think the quality's increased like crazy on everything we're putting out. It's been like years in the making though, of me constantly saying we need to do more and then me not doing anything about it. And then
I noticed that about you from all these meetings. You're like, I said that a year ago. And I'll be like, okay.
Yeah. Well, so I would make Instagram reels on my phone just using CapCut or whatever, and then we'd get busy, and then I'd stop doing it. But now we're like so consistent with it that it's been a game changer. And then it allowed us to be confident to do the one-on-one with you, where we realized, okay, we need to fix our offer. This industry for the longest time has been people fighting each other on price and everybody holding their prices down and nobody making any money because of it. And it's like, okay, we've generated extra leads, and I think we've been overly discounting what we do for way too long. And it's like, fix that. And I don't know, the social media and us getting way more leads because there's way more people seeing what we're doing was, in my mind, like a linchpin to be able to do everything else that we've done.
Yeah. What do you think has been, so speaking of the offer, right? I remember when we first started working together, I'm like, all right, explain to me how you make your money. Where's the revenue come from? What do you charge? What's the profit margin? And that, we did that for hours just looking into it. And it's like, all right. And I think my conclusion was, I think we just need to double the price. Like, I don't even think we need to change anything other than double the price. And how scary was that? Like, I guess just being like, well, man, are we going to lose people? Are they going to get mad?
Wasn't that scary, only because we jumped all in on the podcast and I saw how you sold us with the small clip that was out there that got our attention.
Yeah.
I was already seeing small clips of you coming out to begin with. And then that led into us putting our contact information in.
Yep.
Your people then reached out, and then we got a little bit longer video of you explaining the process and seeing how well that worked, and it translated to what we were doing. And like we did the same, like the podcast literally did the same thing for us.
Yeah.
Put out the small content to put the bird in the person's ear, to put that just put it out there. They see a couple of them, and then all of a sudden they are on our page, and now they're getting a phone call, and now they're calling us because they didn't know it could be done. And they only called us because we were the ones who educated them and it could be even done. So for me, I wasn't too scared about it. I kind of figured it was going to work. And it was to me one of those things where like, this is what we needed. Like, we have grown to a point that for us to grow bigger, we can keep trying to do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
But I know we're going to make tons of mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
Because we only know what we know when it comes down to it. So,
but how shocked were you? I would say, not just like, working together, but like when you started pitching the customers at like twice the price you were charging before, and you were still converting the same.
Oh yeah, no, it was kind of cool. I had been saying for a long time we need to raise our price.
Here we go.
As soon as I stepped into the role, I instantly had already bumped it a little bit because we went to that Hermosi workshop that was all about customer acquisition cost to lifetime gross profit per customer.
Yeah.
And I looked at our numbers from the previous year and was like, we have to raise our price.
Yeah.
So I raised it some.
Yeah.
And people were still just like, okay,
Buying
yeah.
it. Yep.
Done. And then it was like, go higher. Like, I was like, all right, cool. The cool thing is us being a family business, our biggest problem is the friction of us agreeing on something.
Yeah.
So like hiring you and sitting down with you and bringing the problem to
mediator.
You. We all agreed like, okay, what Ryan says is going to go and we're just going to do it. So it's allowed us to take action so much faster than we would have ever done it in the past.
Got
and
it.
not bicker and argue about it. And it's just like, okay, cool. That's what we're doing.
Do you guys think you've gotten better at, I don't want to say agreeing, but now just coming to conclusions quicker versus just kind of like, we can't agree, and then nothing happens?
Yes, I would say yes to that. But for me though, it's always, if I'm trying to do something within the company, because my parents, they're a part of it, but they're still, we run it like almost like board of trustees when it comes down to it. There's 5 votes between all of us. If I'm trying to get something done within the company, usually, depending on what I'm trying to get done, I know who I'm going to talk to first. Because as soon as I know I get that person as a yes, and then I know the third person, as soon as I have 2 yeses, that's what we're going to roll with, and we're going to see how it works for the next couple of weeks. And then obviously not be stuck on, well, we're going to do this until it works. No, we're going to do this and see if it works.
Yeah.
And then if it works, then we made the right decision. If it isn't working, let's look at it again and figure out what we need to change it, and move forward. You know, stop thinking that a decision that we're making is going to be like, that's the final decision. That's how we're going to do it from now on. That was something that I don't think we necessarily have had too much of a problem with. Having the outside voice pretty much tell us what I think we kind of inwardly knew has definitely been a big help when it comes down to it.
It's funny because people will, because I've coached a lot of people over the years, and then, you know, I hear that a lot, like, see, that's what I've been saying. And then it's just like, you know, it's the same thing when you're a parent and your kids don't listen to you. Then they go listen to somebody else, and you're like, I've been telling you to do that. And then they just don't listen.
Oh, so if anything, I'd say that it definitely influenced me to take more action quicker. Then absolutely. Because instead of having a big, long, like, debate taking weeks to come to the conclusion, it's no, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? We roll it back, and
it didn't work. You try a new thing.
Yeah, you try something new.
Yeah. So for next year, right? I mean, we were talking about this beforehand. I mean, obviously, you guys are going to keep doing auto. You're going to keep doing flat. We haven't even talked about auto much, but I mean, you guys do wraps. You guys do window tints and, you know, all that. You know, the tinting school is really interesting for a lot of reasons because, you know, as we were saying before, there's this massive need for more window tinters. Like, it's undersupplied trade. It can pay great. I think you guys could train people quicker. And it just like kind of opens up a whole new segment of business for you guys, whether it be like in the education space or in the kind of like in the recruiting space, you know, placing people in shops and other things. Like, I think it opens the door for a lot of different ways to make money that aren't so labor and material intensive.
You were kind of the part of that catalyst for me when I was thinking about it, is how do I sell to the country?
Yeah.
Because I can only sell tint with my shops here. I live in Vegas. I can only sell tint, which we do. We've done work outside of Vegas. We've gone to San Francisco before. We've been down to Phoenix. Yeah. We have customers that are here like, hey, will you come to I have a house in San Francisco. Yeah, absolutely. Like, here's the price. You want? Sure. Absolutely. That's what started making me think, how can we sell what we've learned through our entire careers installing? How can I sell it to the country? Is beyond that, have an academy where people can come in, or say eventually, hopefully get to the point where it's like, do you want to hire me to come out to your shop and do an in-house training session there, beyond just actual installing, scaling your flat glass business? This is the process I use in my business, from going out to sell the customer, how that translates into the processes of my manager, cutting up the job, to the installers going out, everything about it. And that's what kind of spawned that. I think it was one of your videos I'm pretty sure it was one of your videos talking about selling to the whole country instead of just, the housing market here. You can only do so much in the housing market here. How do I get bigger than that? And that's kind of where the academy is like really pushed me to. It's like, how do we do this? How do we sell our skill everywhere when it comes down to it? Because I can only be in so many places at once. So beyond the in-house academy or going out, actually start making video tutorials, which we are putting some out now, but we want to actually have a very in-depth video tutorial from sales, how we use the programs that we're using, how we measure windows, to how that translates to the process of getting back to our installers, how they cut the job up. How can you make your company that much more efficient to get that much more work done and increase your profit when it comes down to it? Yeah,
I think, and we haven't talked a lot about the school just because, we've been busy doing the other stuff. But I think the school is a big opportunity because even like a lot of people listen to this podcast, I think would be interested in it. And so I think for anyone who's listening, it's not ready yet. So just go follow. Actually, where can they follow you? Just so everyone knows too.
At Green Valley Tint.
At Green Valley Tint on IG. So you guys can go follow them when they do launch it. But I think what's interesting about the school is it's not just like let's just say one revenue stream play where it's like, okay, people learn how to get, how to become tinters and, whatever, right? There's that transaction. I think you guys could obviously make money that way. you make money by recruiting people from it. You know, I've hired many people from my coaching program who ended up working for me. So I think you use it as a recruiting tool for you. I think you guys could go place other people, and now that does like two-way value, because if like part of the sales pitch is, hey, you know, come here, learn, I'm also going to place you at a shop, you know, somewhere across the country, you know, now all of a sudden they got a job that's going to go make them $100K right out the gate from trade school. And then you guys get a placement fee with the shop too. You know, one of my friends, his name's Cole Gordon. He literally runs that model. He does sales training where he'll train your sales team, and he'll also place a salesperson on your sales team for you. And what's cool about his training is the people he places on your sales team, they come in on another funnel where he's teaching them how to become salespeople. So he's like, hey, you want to learn a great skill? Learn to become a sales guy and a high ticket closer. And so, you know, I'm going to teach you how to be a high ticket closer. And by the end of this, I'm going to place you with a company that would use your skills. And so he makes money both ways.
Yeah.
And I think you guys could do the same with window tinting. The only thing that's tough about your school versus like what I do or what Cole does is that, you know, there is an in-person element that has to be there. Yeah. Versus like, you know, yeah, the tutorials and the videos and all that's great, but they do got to get their hands dirty.
Correct.
For this to work.
Yeah.
The cool thing is one of our big ideas on doing it, and our target audience, like as far as getting people in outside of wanting, you know, people for our shop, is the industry is 70-80% of installers out there are auto-centric. They're tinting cars. A lot of them want to get into doing flat glass. We've already had manufacturers of film contact us that they've got certain dealers in mind that are big auto dealers that want to get into flat glass, that they like already want to bring a whole crew of their installers.
Yeah.
And they already know how to work with film. So those types of people can learn a lot faster. So someone who's already, and we've had several local auto installers actually click on our lead form for the academy that are local auto installers that want to learn how to do
flat glass. See, properly. I think if like we could build I don't know what the minimum amount of days would be, but whatever the minimum is, if it could be 3 days or 1 week or whatever, where it's like, it's just all day for this time. And you're going to learn how to do it firsthand. And then, you know, have some type of plan for them to go home with, to be able to go practice and execute. And
what's cool about the podcast that we have coming out next week, this girl, Allie from Ace of Shades, she was in the military, got out, was doing contracting. Her husband was doing detailing, and she just started like tinting on the side, started doing it on social media. She got so good with the social media side of it. She's only been tinting for a year. She's got like 40,000 followers on her Instagram, was able to open a brick and mortar, and she's like hugely successful. And she didn't really even do any professional training. She's just kind of been picking it up on the go.
Yeah.
I think with something like this, you could definitely be up and running a lot faster than not.
Like, how quickly do you think you could train? Like, if they were just all intensive,
if it's
smaller groups,
if it's an auto installer, because that's kind of like the first group that we're going after is people that are you've already an auto tinter. You understand the nuances of working with a film. The processes of tinting a car to a house are very similar. I would say that's the one thing that we're trying to develop right now. I think about 3 to 4 days, in which like the first day will be kind of go over nuances and stuff like that, going through processes, and then the next couple of days will just be purely you're going to be installing the entire time.
If you could create like a training product, and I'm sure they probably exist, but something like they could go home and practice on, I think that would be huge too.
Yeah, well, everybody's got windows in their home, right? So I
just take your own. Yeah, I guess you just take your own crap.
I've had installers in the past that we were training. I'd have them come to my house and tint windows on my house. And,
got it.
So yeah, there's
your house has like 20 shades of tint.
Yeah, so like we want to do an online model where there'll be follow up, where you'll have content of the session that we did. You know, depending on the tier level, you could have access to us for more Zoom call, whatever. Like, it's something that could be picked up.
You do it once a month, right?
Yeah.
You do a 3-day event once a month, and they can come back the next month, and just keep honing. Yeah, that would be the way to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of how my first initial thought is just auto tinters to begin with, because then it can go from there. Then it can go from someone who knows nothing, that it's going to be a beginning course. Yes, you'll leave there being able to do the very basics.
Yeah, there's way more demand for auto.
Have all the
You
basic
can easily
tools.
place them.
Hey, you can leave with all the basic tools, know how to get the film. Like we can set you up with all of that.
Tinting commercial
Everybody's
windows.
got friends and family that,
Needs tint.
yeah. So kind of,
That makes sense. No, that's awesome. So, I mean, obviously going into 2025, you guys are going to keep doing the pod, keep crushing it with flat and with auto, probably launch this school.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of times people would want to know, like, okay, are you going to, open up locations and go to different cities and other things? What's your plans with that?
I wouldn't count it out. I think my biggest focus right now is obviously, yes, internally on our company, but now it's finally at the point of we're looking for after the first quarter of next year, actually start getting some of those classes going with the auto-driven tinters, and then develop the process of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, like even when it comes down to it, going out to someone's shop, or because if you have say you have a big auto shop and you're trying to get multiple installers to switch to flat, the hurdle will be there is where are we going to install film? Because you have to have, thankfully with our academy, we have 6 different stations that all have different windows.
Yeah.
From the easiest being a commercial window, which a commercial window, I'm highly confident within 2 days, I can get anyone to install commercial window tint. Like
easy.
Without a doubt. Within 2 days.
Standard rubber gasket commercial window. Yeah, you could have somebody trained up really quick.
And then you just start getting into the residential windows. Residential windows throw a little bit more curveballs, different sizes and shapes, depending on
that's
the window,
true.
the window itself. And then beyond that, even if you're installing on residential, are you putting the proper film on? Because that's even a class in itself, to where we have meters, window meters within our industry, to where if you're not using one, like we used one on and off for a while, and now it's mandatory. If any salesperson walks into a house, they're putting a meter on the window. We have to know what type of glass you have.
Yeah.
Because if we put the wrong film on, because that's a lot of the blowback you'll get from house builders or window companies. Don't put tint on it, voids the warranty.
Yeah.
And it does. But the manufacturers cover that warranty as long as you're putting the appropriate film on that's actually going to do its job. Mm-hmm. So
my Tommy Mello, who's been on the show and spoken at WealthCon, I was at his office, a month or 2 ago, and they have this whole training center there too, where there's like 8 garage stalls, and that's where they train everyone how to, like, I don't even know, sell garage doors and like look at the doors and identify the different things and whatever. Because they kind of do similar to you, like their outside sales also got to understand the product and know what's broken and diagnose it and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing that what I always try to warn people, like, you can try to DIY your car. It's probably not going to turn out great.
you're not going to break any windows while doing it.
But you put the wrong film on your home's windows, and that could be a very costly mistake. So that's why you'll hear a lot of contractors and stuff tell people not to tint their windows in their home. Because if you take a film that's meant for a car, that's black and dark and absorbs a lot of heat, that could...
No, it will.
It like melts the window or something?
The window's going to break.
It overheats the window.
It just gets too hot.
And it cracks the glass.
Yeah, so you have to know what you're doing when it comes to putting film. And unfortunately, there are auto tinters out there that just want to wing it. And can you tint my house windows? And they just don't know. And they
It's different.
Yeah. So that was the other part of like the podcast is how can we educate as many people as possible that know we can do this. The film manufacturer, if you use the right film, you test the glass, they're going to warranty the glass. And it's going to work.
Is the main benefit of residential tinting, would it just be the heat and the savings?
Depends on the area of the country you're in. Here, energy savings is our biggest one. Some people just want to knock out the glares.
Like how much money could it save?
Usually the typical ROI on a house is about 3 to 5 years.
So in 3 to 5 years, you'll have energy saved enough. Okay, got it.
Yeah, we run on big commercial buildings. Our manufacturer will actually run energy analysis for us. So on a big enough building, we can give them the dimensions of all the windows, the directions they face, the location of the building, the power load on the building, and they'll bring us back an energy analysis that tells us how long they're going to get their ROI, and it's typically like 3 years.
Got it. And then the side benefits would be security. not being able to see in.
Fade protection, UV protection. So if you have wood floors or paintings or furniture,
That's true.
expensive blinds, shutters. People's shutters get warped by the sun all the time. So
And then even-
we're also protecting your other window coverings. So it's like it doesn't have to be one or the other.
And then
if you
even-
have nice window coverings, you probably want to put film on to protect them.
And then
Yeah.
even in the cold climates too, you have, instead of heat getting in, you have heat going out.
Yeah,
They have-
that's still Bill.
Yep.
Yeah, there's films that
Low-E
retain heat when it comes down to it. So instead of replacing the glass on your entire house, which glass prices have gotten absolutely
crazy.
insane. They've like pretty much doubled, if not even more than that, in the past couple of years. To where you're gonna have broken glass is gonna happen. Even when, from our standpoint, we installed, I think, almost 90,000 square feet this year. We've probably
Close to
had
100.
we've had maybe 10 glass breakages, which glass breakage is going to happen just by a defaulted window when it comes down to it.
Why don't manufacturers, I've always wondered this, especially with cars, why don't they just tint them out the gate?
Different for cars, it's going to be state laws.
Every state has a different law for cars. So that's why, like, you see the back halves of SUVs and trucks will have the tinted glass.
Right.
That's just dye in the glass. So that isn't actually doing much for heat rejection.
Yeah, and
And
manufacturer
the
will
laws
tell
are
you it
different
is.
for every state on the front doors.
So the dye in the glass is just simply for privacy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't do anything past that. As much as a car dealership will tell you it does.
Got
does
it.
not.
So,
Unfortunately.
and then home glass, it's just not like normal yet.
Well, and it's even different areas of the country. We've had people come on our podcast that are in the Midwest that they're starting to see glass that has low E coatings on the interior surface, which means you can't even tint the inside of the window. You have to tint the outside if you're going to tint it. But then again, that's because
Do you
it's
usually
colder
tint the inside or the outside?
inside typically. But again, it depends.
Because it doesn't get hurt by the weather.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
you have a lifetime warranty with an interior film. You've got the UV protection added to the adhesive layer of the film. You've got the glass and then the UV protection. The film will last forever put on the inside. Sometimes you got a piece of glass that has a low E coating on it where you have to go on the outside. Luckily, the manufacturers have gotten a lot better now. We're doing a lot of exterior film, 10-year warranty on the outside now. We can get up to like 91% heat rejection if we go on the outside. So
Because the outside just catches it.
it's reflecting it before it even hits that interior pane of glass. So
Got it.
We've done a lot of exterior commercial film this year.
So for houses, flat glass isn't going to come pre-tinted for the sole fact of you have a lot of people that don't want dark windows. They want the natural light.
Yeah.
Which we have windows, we have tint for that, which a lot of the glass that's coming out now is already so efficient that if you're trying to put a clear film on, the only way you're going to improve anything on it is by doing an exterior install. Because putting something on the inside, the only way to get heat rejection is going to be going with a darker film. So it just really depends. Now, if you have an older home though, and instead of replacing all the glass on your house,
It's way cheaper to tint it.
way cheaper.
Oh, yeah, it's not even
way
close.
cheaper. You can go from. We had one of our employees. She got a quote. It was about, I think, 120,000 for Anderson Renewal windows.
What?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been seeing customers.
300 square feet of glass.
Yeah.
No way.
Oh yeah. I've seen several customers with quotes to replace the glass in their home, like 2,000, 3,000 square foot home, well over $100,000.
No freaking
A whole new
way.
mortgage. Yeah.
And so
Wow.
instead of ripping out the glass,
We never replace windows on friggin' homes. There's a reason.
Yeah.
We wouldn't make any money.
It's gotten crazy.
well, if you're in your house, you rip the glass out, you're actually technically hurting the integrity of the home when it comes down to it, because they have to. I mean, they got to rip that out when it
Yeah.
comes down to it. So retrofitting with film, it's more cost effective and it does less damage.
Yeah, actually, just so people know, like, what is the cost of something like that? 2,000 square foot home.
Salesman.
I don't know. So you're looking maybe 250 square feet.
Okay.
Depends on the film you're going with, but our standard like dual reflective right now, good heat rejection, daytime privacy.
4,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, 4,000 to 5,000.
Okay, so if it's $5,000 versus $100,000,
Yeah.
you know, like, so they're not even close. And then, like you said, in about 3 to 4 years, you'll have saved. You know, you're saving basically $1,000 a year.
Yep.
When it comes down to it, energy savings.
Yeah, depends on direction of your glass, all those kinds of things.
How are you using your AC? Because that's another
Yeah.
thing too. Is unfortunately a lot of people think that if you put tin on, I can just turn my AC off. No, no, you can't.
Yeah.
I'll never need.
We've had that. We've
I've
had that
walked-
call.
Well, I've walked in a couple homes where it's like I'm installing.
Why do I still need an AC in Las Vegas?
in the middle of the summer installing on the person's house, and they have it up to, it's like 82 degrees in their house, and I'm like, can we turn this on perhaps maybe a little bit? And then it's also by the time I get done and letting them know, like, hey, when it cools down, turn your AC down. You want your house at least 78, 77, to where the whole point of film is to lighten the load on your AC unit. That's how you're going to be saving money, is that you keep your house semi-cool. The film will keep the heat out, but then your AC unit's actually going to turn off now. Instead of it just running all day long and trying to keep the house cool, it's going to actually give it a break to where it turns off, and that's where you're getting your savings. But don't think that you're just going to turn your AC off and the tint's going to keep your house perfectly cool. Like, tint works off of moving air. You have to have that ability to it when it comes down to it.
That's crazy. Well, I've learned a lot about tint today. So I think for anybody who's interested in tint, especially Vegas, and I mean, like, you guys might be able to go to other places too. Where should they go?
You can go to our website, greenvalleytint.com. Like I said, our handle is Instagram at Green Valley Tint.
Cool.
Send us in a lead form. We'll get you taken care of.
Cool. So guys, go check it out. Just want you guys to know, proud of everything you guys have accomplished, where things are going. It's going to be exciting to see 2025. And, it's going to be cool to see the podcast and the growth. And, don't lose the top spot either as the world's best window tinter. Keep winning the competition. Yeah. And then Josh, try to get as good if you can.
I'm beating him this year. That's why he can't. That's why he has to compete this year.
Yeah, he's forcing me.
I love it.
So,
well, we really appreciate everything you've done for us, man. This year's been pretty massive for our business and for our growth. And we definitely couldn't have done it without your help. So
yeah,
thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it, man.
Well, guys, go follow them, subscribe, check them out, go see them compete in these windows. They're actually really entertaining clips. So go watch them compete and scrub these windows and get them done fast. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Good job. Good job.